If you've ever wondered what healthy locks actually look like after more than a decade, stay with me because these locks are 13 years old. I've looked after them from the very beginning. We've been through starter twists, color, weddings, 2 babies, changing routines, different maintenance methods, and we've even changed the way we care for the locks as they've matured. So while I'm maintaining them today, I want to answer some of the biggest questions people ask me all the time. How do you actually start locks? Should you choose twists, comb coils, instant locks or extensions? Do mature locks still need conditioner? When should you clarify? Does every lock need detoxing? Why did I stop interlocking these locks? Why do some locks get combined as they get older? And how do you keep locks healthy enough that 13 years later, they're still thriving? This isn't a tutorial. Think of it more like sitting in the salon with me while we have a proper conversation. Because after 13 years, these locks have taught me far more than any textbook ever could. So let's go right back to the beginning. 13 years. 13 years of looking after one head of locks. Now, when you see them today, you see long, healthy, mature locks. But what you don't see is everything that's happened in between. We've been through weddings. We've been through color. We've celebrated the arrival of 2 beautiful children. We've changed the way we maintain the locks as they've matured. And we've both learned a lot along the way. So this isn't really a retwist video. It's more like you're sitting in the salon with me while I work and we're just having a chat. If you're thinking about starting locks, you've already started your own journey, or you're simply curious about how somebody keeps their locks healthy for over a decade, then stay with me. Because today I'm going to share the little things that made the biggest difference over 13 years. Not 13 weeks, not 13 months, but 13 years. I was looking through some old photos recently, and it really made me smile because I'd almost forgotten where we started. Back then, she didn't have locks. She simply had healthy natural hair and wanted something that suited her lifestyle. After talking everything through, we decided to start with twists. Now this is where people usually ask me, what's the best way to start locks? And honestly, there isn't one answer. Everybody's journey is different. Some people start with twists like we did. Some people prefer comb coils. Some people want instant locks because they don't want to wait for the budding stage. Some people come to me because they've experienced thinning or hair loss and they're rebuilding their confidence as much as they're rebuilding their hair. And then there are people who choose human hair extensions. Now I know extensions can be a bit controversial in the LO community, but I always explain the same thing. The extensions are only there to support the beginning. They're not the destination. The goal has always been for your own hair to grow, mature, and eventually become the lock itself. I never want somebody relying on extension hair forever. I want their own crown to take over. That's the real beauty of the journey. When I look back at these starter twists now, I laugh. They're tiny, neat, full of promise. And just like most people, she had about 100 questions. Is this normal? Why is it fuzzy already? When will it actually look like locks? I think every loctician has heard those questions, and I completely understand. Like when you're looking at your own hair every single day, every tiny change feels huge. One little frizzy bit suddenly feels like the whole hairstyle is falling apart. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking, no, this is exactly what should be happening. One of my favorite parts of working with clients isn't actually doing the hair. It's helping people understand what they're seeing. Because once you understand what's happening, you stop panicking every time the hair changes. In those early days, I saw her every 6 weeks. That's fairly normal while the locks are establishing themselves. The roots are learning what they're doing. The twists are beginning to lock. Everything is finding its own rhythm. Then gradually, those appointments became further apart. Every 3 months, then every 4 months, eventually twice a year. And now, I probably see her once a year. Everything else she does herself, and honestly, that makes me proud. People sometimes think our job as hair professionals is to keep clients dependent on us forever. I've never believed that. Of course, I love seeing my clients. Some of them have become family. But I also want them to enjoy their own hair. I want them to understand it. I want them to know when something feels normal and when something doesn't. If somebody leaves my chair feeling confident enough to care for their own hair, then I've done my job properly. Now, before I even begin maintaining these locks, I spend quite a bit of time just looking. And I'm looking at the scalp, I'm checking the new growth, I'm feeling the strength of each lock. I'm looking at the roots, I'm checking if the weight is being carried properly. From a distance, everything can look absolutely fine. Then you put your hands into the hair and you realize one little section has been pulling more than another. That's something you only notice with experience. Maintenance isn't just about making the roots look neat, it's a health check. One question I get asked all the time is, what products do you use? People are usually expecting me to pull out 10 different bottles. Honestly, very few. I've always believed technique is far more important than products. Clean hair, a healthy scalp, gentle handling, good sectioning, understanding the hair. Those things matter much more than covering the locks with heavy waxes or thick locking gels. Because here's the thing, whatever goes into a lock doesn't always come back out easily. Over time, products collect, dust collects, lint collects, build-up collects. Before you know it, the lock is carrying around things it never needed in the first place. That's why I like keeping things simple. Simple doesn't mean basic, simple means intentional. Now, that doesn't mean mature locks never need extra care. Clarifying is something I do believe in. Life happens, products happen, natural oils happen, pollution, sweat, dust, all of that builds up over time. Every now and then it's nice to give the locks a proper fresh start. People often ask me about detoxes as well. Sometimes social media makes it look like everybody should be soaking their locks in bowls every few months. I don't agree. I look at the hair first. If I can see years of heavy buildup, then yes, a detox might be useful. If the locks are already clean, light and healthy, why do something they don't actually need? Hair tells you a lot if you slow down and pay attention. Conditioner is another conversation that comes up all the time. Some people are terrified of conditioner. They're convinced it's going to unravel their locks overnight. For mature locks like these, I don't see conditioner as the enemy. A lightweight conditioner that rinses away properly can help support moisture without leaving loads of residue behind. Healthy locks still need moisture, they just don't need to be drowning in product. Another thing that's changed over the years is how I actually maintain these locks. Earlier on, we used interlocking much more regularly. At the time, it worked well for where she was in her journey. But hair changes, locks change. As these became longer and heavier, my approach changed too. These days, I don't feel the need to interlock every maintenance appointment. I'm more interested in making sure the new growth is healthy, everything is balanced, and the roots are happy. That's one thing experience teaches you. You don't keep doing something just because you've always done it. You adapt. Now, if you look closely, you'll notice not every lock is exactly the same size. That wasn't an accident. Over the years, we combined a few of the smaller locks. Why? Because locks gain weight. Every extra inch adds more weight to the root. Sometimes those tiny little sections that looked absolutely fine in year 2 aren't strong enough to comfortably support the weight in year 13. So combining them gives better long-term support. It's about thinking 10 years ahead instead of 10 weeks ahead. The same goes for the edges. The hairline is different from the rest of the head. Those hairs are often finer. Sometimes there's less density there too. So expecting them to carry exactly the same weight as the crown doesn't always make sense. Sometimes slightly larger sections around the edge actually protect the hair better. Everything comes back to weight distribution. Healthy roots carry healthy locks. One thing I also notice with mature locks is that they begin resting on each other. The longer they become, the more they naturally lean against neighboring locks. That can create pressure in places you wouldn't expect. So during maintenance, I'm constantly checking how the weight is sitting. Again, it's another reminder that maintenance isn't just about appearance. It's about protecting the future of the hair. Of course, it hasn't all been maintenance and treatments. We've had some fun as well. There was the color phase. I always smile when I look back at those pictures. Hair changes with life, and sometimes you want something fresh, sometimes you want something softer, sometimes you just fancy a change. Locks don't stop you expressing yourself. They simply become another way of doing it. Then came the wedding. That was a really special day. Moments like that remind me why I love this job. You're not just styling somebody's hair, you're becoming part of one of the biggest memories they'll ever have. Years later, I still remember it. Then life carried on. Marriage, children, busy days, new routines. Less time, more responsibilities. Through all those changes, these locks kept quietly growing alongside her life. When I look back at the old photos, I don't just see hair, I see trust, consistency, conversations, laughter, different seasons of life. 13 years is a long time to know someone, People often ask if there's a miracle treatment for growing locks faster. I wish it was that easy. Healthy hair starts with a healthy scalp. That's where it begins. Simple habits repeated consistently usually beat expensive miracle products every single time. Keeping the scalp clean, protecting the hair while you sleep with a satin bonnet, scarf, or pillowcase, avoiding unnecessary tension, paying attention when something feels different, and above all, being patient. Hair doesn't rush, nature doesn't rush, and somehow everything still gets done. When I look at these locks today, I don't just see 13 years of growth. I see someone who trusted me with one of the most personal parts of who they are. Out of all the locticians she could have chosen, she chose me. And 13 years later, she's still sitting in my chair. That means more to me than I can really explain. If there's one thing I'd love you to take away from this conversation, it's this. Beautiful, healthy locks don't come from one amazing product. They don't come from one perfect retwist. They come from hundreds of small decisions made consistently over time. Looking after your scalp, respecting your edges, keeping things clean, learning your own hair, being patient while it changes, working with your hair instead of constantly fighting it. After 13 years, that's probably the biggest lesson these locks have taught me. Your hair grows, people grow, life changes, and if you give all three the time they need, the journey becomes every bit as beautiful as the destination. Thank you for spending a little time with me today. If you enjoy real client journeys like this, I'd love for you to subscribe because I've got so many stories to share. Every head of hair has taught me something different over the years, and I'd love to bring you along for those conversations as well. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your crown.